Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about domain and range. Let's go to what you know already from your grade 9. Here I have a straight line with an equation y equals mx plus b, and the question now is this. These lines, as indicated by the arrows at the very end, the line is going to extend forever and ever on the right side, going up, and on the left side it's going to go down forever and ever. So here, this line, it can accept all x values, which means it can, because it's going forever and ever on the x-axis, it covers all the x values on the positive side, all the x values on the negative side. It also covers the zero in between for the x values. So we say the domain, which is really the values x can take. So we write like this. We say x, the x values. This symbol here looks like a funny E. This symbol is belongs to, and this symbol here is real numbers. So write it down for you. This one says belongs to, and this one says real numbers. Now, what are real numbers? Real numbers are pretty much all numbers, positive numbers, negative numbers, zero, decimals, fractions, irrational numbers, rational numbers. So they are pretty much all the numbers that you know of. That's a mathematical way of saying it. So what is the meaning of this word domain? Domain means all the values x can take. Okay, so from the graph we know that x can take all values. But what about y? We have a name for that. That is called the range. Range is all the values y can take. All the values y can take. Okay, so what are all the values y can take? You notice here, looking at the right arrow here, the line is extending right and up, which means it's going to take all those values that are going up along the positive y-axis. And when you look at this arrow here, which is going left and down, then you can come back to all the negative values that y can take. It can also take zero. So for a straight line, the domain and range, this domain and this range is always true. So as soon as you see a straight line, and if somebody asks you, tell me all the values x can take, which means they're talking about the domain, tell me what the values, all the values y can take, they're talking about range, you will write x belongs to real numbers and y belongs to real numbers. What about a parabola? Okay, so the parabola is kind of close to, is similar to the line in terms of the domain. So the domain is similar. Okay, so here we will say x belongs to real numbers because these arrows can keep going down forever, which means all along the positive x-axis, all along the positive y-axis, all these values are valid for this parabola. The difference comes in the range value. Okay, so looking at this parabola, we know that it's opening down. That means that the 5 here is a max value. That is the maximum possible y value. Notice that the entire parabola is below the 5. So all the y values have to be smaller than 5. So we will say the y values are less than equal to 5. But what kind of numbers are these? So we'll have to say something about it as well. So we will say y belongs to real numbers. So you can write it like this. So you have two pieces of information. One piece of information, you say that x can be a integer, a decimal, a rational number, irrational number. Pretty much the y can be any of these numbers including zero, but there is a restriction here. The restriction is this particular parabola, the maximum value is 5, which means all the other values have to be smaller than 5. What about in this case? Domain Again, it's the same as before. X belongs to real numbers. So for all parabolas and all straight lines, you can assume that the domain is, not assume, it is true that the X belongs to real numbers. And the range is going to be somewhat different, isn't it? Because here in this parabola, we have a graph that is opening up. So the 4 here, the negative 4 here, it is a min value. All the other y values in this parabola is going to be bigger than this negative 4, which is the smallest possible values. So here you will say y is bigger than equal to negative 4. And the same thing as before, y belongs to real numbers. So to sum it up, for lines and parabolas, the domain value, that is the values x can take, it's always x belongs to real numbers. For the lines, it's also y belong to real numbers because there is no maxima or minima on a y. For the parabola, which has a maxima or a minimum, the range is determined by the max or the min. In the first case, when the parabola opens down and you have a max, all the other y values will be smaller than the 5. So that's what you're saying here. All the other values are going to be smaller than the 5. It's also equal to the 5. And here on the second one, we are saying that y belongs to real numbers, which means it takes integers, fractions, it takes decimals, it takes zero, it takes all the numbers that you are familiar with. If you look at the second parabola here, you notice here there is a minimum value. The graph is opening up. So the smallest value y can take is negative 4, which means all the other values have to be bigger than this negative 4. So it's bigger than or equal to negative 4 because y can equal negative 4 as well. And you'll have to say y belongs to real numbers. So to complete this, the way we normally finish it off is like this. We put it in a bracket that looks like this. And that's how it is formally written. So when you guys write your domain and range, put them in these nice brackets that look like this. And that completes this lesson, and see you in the next video.